order?
Yes, sir.
All right, item number one, the minutes from February 28th. Oh, that seems like decades ago.
Sure does.
All seems like, makes sense what we talked about last time, so.
All in favor? Aye?
Second?
We're good? Financial update.
We have the financials through May 31st in front of us tonight, and
We got,
I believe they're in that packet.
This says March
Date.
31st, so I just wanna make sure it's the right one.
March.
And it has like the printed date on the bottom of April 29th, so.
That's what I want.
It doesn't have 5/31/2019 on the top.
No,
it's
it
got
says
3/31.
It says 3/31.
Well, that's not good, because we don't wanna talk about 3/31.
You gonna give me some AP?
Yeah, I can print those out so that we can have them, yeah.
I've got the right one.
I don't think I'm that blind yet.
You gave us, was it,
It was in the package that you.
Yeah.
Yeah. May 31st.
Huh.
Are you sure you're reading it right?
Yeah, no, look, they're
what
looking
does
at
that
it.
say?
Witness
It says
list?
3/31?
3/31.
3/31.
You want mine? Here's 5/31.
You got the one, dude?
3/31?
I got 531. You want it?
Mark and I got the right one.
Hmm.
Finances looking good to us, I don't know about you guys, jeez. 104.6% I see right there.
Yeah.
Framed it.
We're making too much money.
Wait, was this
All of
from?
6,208, no, that's 6 million.
6 million.
That's 6
Yeah.
million.
That's right.
Yeah, 272, nice.
So now you can reduce the rates.
Wouldn't that be nice if we could reduce the rates?
Yes,
Too bad
we
we
would
can't.
be. You did well this morning.
Yeah, this is not gonna be as rosy.
Well,
The good news is the electric rates are going down.
Oh,
That's
good.
July 1st, the electric rates are going
Just in
down.
time for air conditioning, I like that.
Yeah, so it's, well, we can drop the fuel charge, so the fuel charge is dropping 8%, but that nets out, you know, your whole bill
Yeah.
to just, you know, just under 5. But Mark and I had the right one, Pete.
well, he made it color this time, so that's maybe
Nice.
nicer.
Somebody.
Now the rates are definitely going up. Office expenses.
There you go, I like that.
Yeah, telling
Yeah,
it.
but we don't have color copier up at town hall.
We're looking at the May 31st, 2019 financials.
Yeah.
And at this point in time, we've collected 92% of the revenues we need to fund the program that was approved at last year's annual town meeting. So at this point in time, based on the sales of the cash collections of paying for water, we're still short $652,000 and some change through May. But I've looked up we bill for some other things that we don't really show on this chart because we try to fund the operation through the sale of water. And when I add in the backflow connection fees and the fees for people who, connection fees and the like, we need to collect from this point through June, through the end of the month, an additional $84,000 to meet our revenue expectations. And that's only 19% of last June's cash receipts. So I feel that I'm confident that we will collect enough money to fund the program for the water that was approved last year's annual On the sewer side, at this point in time, through the end of May, we have in fact collected enough cash to pay for the program that was approved. So on the sewer side, we're okay. On the water side, it's tight, but I believe we're going to make it.
Do we automatically roll excess over like the budget for, does it automatically go into like a reserve or? is
Goes
it-
into the retained earnings that you've heard us speak about. The water funds stay with the water, the sewer funds stay with the sewer, they do not go to any place else.
And then the town meeting appropriates capital projects out of it.
That's correct.
Question, and I ask this question at every meeting, is what is our cash, available cash that we have as of this month for water and for sewer? That's retained earnings basically, isn't it?
I do believe that's what we're talking about.
So what is the
Well,
value?
the retained earnings, as, we're anticipating that the retained earnings for water at June 30th will be $607,000, which is 7.6% of our gross revenue, which is by policy, we shoot to go for 10%. So on the water side, we're anticipating that we will be below the stated policy of the division. On the sewer side, we're anticipating having $903,778, which is 14.1% of gross revenues, which is a little over 4%.
Is 10, we talked about this last time, is 10?
10% of gross
Target for that,
revenues is the policy that we've established, the town has established for these two divisions.
That's what you want to earn, basically.
Well, that's what we want to have
Right.
in reserve
Right.
for the emergencies that may come up. I guess that's how I would say it. I think we're saying the same thing, but
But the follow-up question to that, Coley, is that what is the available reserves that we have in both water and sewer to date? This is the cash available for use.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking if he thinks he's gonna have, you're gonna have 1.5 at the end of June, right?
between the two.
Yeah, I'm just talking, you're gonna have 1.5 in June.
Yeah, I just we make the distinction in talking about it because each one is a separate business by itself.
Yeah,
But
but
yes,
I'm wearing my
between
commission hat, you
but
have
between
1.5.
the two of them, it will
Yeah,
be
yeah.
1.5.
Yeah, and if my memory serves me correctly, a couple town meetings ago, we had like a $3 million balance and the town appropriated half of that, right, so they.
No,
right?
that,
I thought
we showed a $3 million balance.
Yeah,
Then we found that there was an accounting error,
okay,
and that what we've been told, and so they went back and corrected the accounting error, and they had not charged capital projects to that. They'd been booked, was that right, Pete? So the
Yeah.
capital had been booked, we thought they were all paid, we thought we had over $3 million in retained earnings. Where everything was planned, and then all of a sudden, we got the call last summer, 3 million is not correct, or last fall, it's only 1.5 million.
alright.
Correct.
So that set us back $1.5 million.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, do you typically, is the target typically to have 1.5 million in reserve?
It's typically 10%, with a minimum, which is how much, Pete? That's on water?
It would be. $10% would be $799,000,
Right,
about
so
$800,000.
Right, so the 1.5 was still above what well above what the policy was. Policy's 790, which is 10%.
Mhm.
And then
Sorry.
out of that 1.5, well, we'll talk about it more in the
Yeah.
rates, but now we have the current fiscal year's capital projects come out of that 1.5.
Come out of that, right.
Yep.
Yes, that's the game, that's the game.
But I'm trying to understand the historical pattern of what you've kept.
Oh, yeah, so it was,
Are you consistent with that or not consistent with that?
it was staying above the 10%. We were between 800,000 and 1.5 million.
Okay,
It was going
Yes.
back and forth between there
yeah,
for many years.
Correct.
And if it would creep above, we'd have either drop the rate or have a more extensive capital program. We'd do more water mains.
yeah,
And we had a pretty aggressive program planned for this year,
right, we talked about that.
based on the 3 million.
Right.
So now we're taking a hit out of that 1.5 this year.
Correct.
So we'll probably get into it in a few minutes. I'm thinking, in my simple head, we've got 1.5 million for capital, and what's the capital plan? Are you gonna eradicate that and then borrow, or you spend $1 million of the 1.5 and keep 500 in reserve, or?
Yeah, well,
So I remember last year, we kept, out of the budget fund,
Yep.
we targeted 400 grand, if my memory serves me correctly,
Yeah.
right?
So,
Right.
so what we can talk about is that this year, at the end of the fiscal year, so the retainings at the beginning of this fiscal year was 1,553,000. The articles that we projected to take out of that are 904,000.
Okay.
There's a projected revenue, we looked at all the expenses, we're saving some on the expense side of the budget
Yeah,
of $255,000. So right now, we're projecting on July 1st, 2019, to have $903,000 in retained earnings
for the sewer.
for the sewer.
And
That's the sewer.
And we're anticipating having 600,000 and some change for water,
Yeah,
which is $192,000 shy of what the stated policy is.
okay.
So we're planning to bring that back up, and then we're gonna have to have more to work back towards being at or above the policy, and then have enough funds to pay for the debt that's coming up and the capital projects that we would like to do going forward.
So we'll talk about what capital money's coming out of that in
yeah.
a few
Yeah,
minutes.
so water, the numbers on water, you guys, we'll hand this sheet out in a second, but it's, so water, we started the year 1.589. We're gonna take, look at,
Okay.
We're all set here.
We're down the bottom, okay.
there it is, 607. So we're gonna begin fiscal 20, July 1, 2019, with $607,000. So we're slightly below our policy starting the year.
Yeah. So does that mean, so the projected revenue versus expenses, right, that's, and then they come as the 174? And last year, we were talking about handing over 400, right? So has that number dropped? I thought at the end of last year's budget thing, we were talking about having a surplus of 400,000.
At the end of this year?
End of last year.
Yeah, when we were going through the last year's budget.
Yeah.
A year ago at this meeting, cause I remember getting the question from Mark saying, hey, you guys are making 400 grand, and I'm like, we're not shareholders, but it's going back into retained earnings.
Was that what we actually made, or was that the
So
projection
that's the
for this
400
year?
that's in my head versus
I-
the 174 here, so.
I don't know if we're speaking about the projections here, or what, if we spent $400,000
Yeah.
less
Yeah.
than we budgeted,
Right.
the budget what actually was.
But that's your net income number for this year.
174.
174 is what you make,
Yep.
right? So, on a pretty big budget.
On
that's-
8 million.
Yeah, yeah,
We made 174.
okay. And that's if the world's perfect,
Yes.
Yeah.
right, right?
That's still
Yeah.
dependent upon stuff.
If you don't, yeah, you've got planned breaks and
Right.
if the usage goes up or down, all right.
So, going into fiscal 20, and when we start talking about the rate, you can see we need to have the discussion of, we definitely don't wanna take the 607,000 water any lower. We would actually like to see that grow slightly up towards the 10%. We'd like to get back to that 10%. And our bonding companies are gonna wanna see us get back to that 10% also.
That's correct.
Just because it's a healthy marker, or it's because it's the policy?
Because, well, the policy's 10%, and the policy's based on good business practices. And it's been accepted by our accountants and accepted by bond counsel in the past.
So the question I was thinking about on the way over, and then maybe it's a number to be gained later. What's the fixed cost of running this and what's the variable? Is it 80% of the budget's fixed and 20% is variable, or what does that look like in terms of?
Oh,
If-
it's, I mean, it's really, it's almost all fixed.
It's all fixed.
It's all fixed,
Okay.
yeah. There's like small tens of, say $50,000 in the whole budget set for like emergency condition kind of
Yeah.
thing. The rest of it's fixed. Chemicals are based on 5-year average.
Okay, all right, okay, all right.
Electricity's based on a 5-year average. Everything's based on what we're really gonna use.
Yeah, the salaries are the salaries.
Salaries are the
You
salaries.
put it in by employee, by the contractually negotiated
Yep.
increase. I mean, it's not like we're just saying, oh, we'll do this. It's person by person, goes into the software
Yep,
with the increase so that we get an actual number. And like Dave said, even on the other expense, it's, anytime, we had the water break one year on Elliott Street, I mean, Aaron and the guys and us had to work to find out what we were not gonna do to
Mhm.
make up the difference for that.
yeah, I mean, it's a curiosity.
Just,
question.
yeah, I mean, just as an example of what happened.
So there's
when-
not a lot of wiggle room in
No.
terms of what you're doing,
Yeah,
and then you're subject to Mother Nature and all that.
correct.
Right? You're doing all these conservation efforts, you're putting in restrictions, and you're killing your revenue stream, right?
Yeah, we'll talk more about that in
Yeah,
a
all
minute.
right, okay, gotcha, all right.
But that's.
Just make sure I'm not too
That-
far
that's-
off in my thoughts. You
No.
guys do this 40 hours a week, I don't, so, you know. Okay.
So we should approve the financial reports before we get into the rates.
Yeah, I'm comfortable if you think you're gonna make what you told the
Yep.
town and the bond companies you're gonna make, I'm all right with that. Right, I
That's
don't see any extraordinary items that
Yeah.
we should be running up the flagpole or anything like that, so,
Right.
right?
No.
And we're just talking about the
Yeah,
cash,
yeah.
The
cash
cash, the
receipts.
cash receipts, which
Yeah.
pays for the program that was approved
Yeah.
for fiscal 19.
Okay. So, David, you wanna vote on the
Yeah, just so you-
year-to-date May financials?
Yep.
I entertain a motion to approve the May 31, 2019 year-to-date financials.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And next on the agenda, item 3, deferral applications.
Is number 3?
PPS
Which,
update.
PFAS update.
what agenda do we have here?
Yeah, see,
Oh, Lee's given us 2. Here, this is the, all right.
Yeah, this-
That's probably
Which
why
one do
we
you
have
have?
the March.
It looks,
I
it
have
looks
the one
like,
with 6 items on it.
I looked at my packet and it looked
guys-
great.
you
I
guys-
should've looked at all your guys' packets.
You guys are gonna send me to the eye doctor.
Oh, yeah.
It says deferral application.
well, I'm thinking I gave her the wrong thing, but
Oh, no. So, apparently, I'm sorry, my packets, she did not go in and update the board packets, it doesn't
Okay.
look like.
okay.
So So
You
item,
tell us, what are we talking about?
so item 3 is so
Guide
you're-
us, David.
is so Coley has it now, is the PFAS update.
You want me to cut this off? Oh,
I'm on track, I got it.
Yeah.
So on the PFAS, is we continue to deal with the issue of PFAS with well 1 and well 2. The DEP has still not promulgated any rules about PFAS. Don't even have a safety advisor, a health advisory out on them yet. However, they've wanted us to do continued testing. We've done repeat testing at well 1, repeat testing at well 2. They wanted us to test the treatment plant at Middleton Pond. We've done all that. There is no PFAS at all, non-detectable out of the treatment plant in Middleton. The PFAS at well 2 it came up at 10 was the average of them all. When you add them all when you add up all the different PFASs together, it comes out to 10 part per trillion, which is half of what the health advisory of
The proposed.
health
maximum
advisory
payment level that may come out.
of 20, and we're at half of that,
That was well too.
and that's well 2. Well run is at 23. So right now we have well 1 shut off, and the well 2 we were doing some maintenance on well 2 anyway, so we hadn't been using it, and we're in discussions with DEP about. DEP's like, maybe you shouldn't use well 2, and we're like, wait a second, this is half of any kind of threshold you've ever been, and we're in discussions with them about that. When you get to 10 parts per trillion, now we're getting down at the actual parameters that the tests can test for. And so we want to make sure it's accurate. If we're getting down to that level, it's
It'd be like
tests.
to get false positives.
Are we going to get
Yeah.
false positive? Can we trust the test? And that's right at the limit of the testing. And I believe 20 was, they had a level up there, 20 was previously thought that was the limit of the testing criteria. So we're continuing to monitor it. There's other people in the state. And with well 1, there was a fire across the street years ago where firefighting foam was used. So if we're having slight PFAS readings, it could have been due to that. We may be able to trace it back to that. We'll see. That's the best we've been able to come up with so far. in
And the only
research.
reason why it's coming up now is because of you weren't required to be testing for that before. But
Correct.
the government said, or the regulators said that we're thinking about regulating it and setting an allowable limit of 20 or something like
Yep.
that. So then they required all the jurisdictions to go and do it.
Yep.
Has the limit been revised to 20 now?
No.
No,
So what was the limit before?
70 part per trillion.
70.
70.
70.
And we came in at 23.
23.
And that's why it triggered everything.
Right.
Okay, so the limit has not been revised yet,
No.
so it's up to the regulators or EPA, whoever's.
DP, Mass DP. Yep.
Mass DEP.
Yeah.
Alright. Thank you for that update. Any questions by the board or anybody? Okay, I'll get it right this time. Item number 4.
What is it?
Diet Coke sewer betterment.
I was gonna speak a little bit to this. So as you may know, 99% of the town is sewered. There are a few outliers that still exist in the town. Dyer Court is one of those streets. There's 2 houses still remaining, number 3 and number 4 Dyer Court, where they have existing septic tanks. Number 4 Dyer Court was in the process of selling their home. Did Title 5 inspection. Obviously the septic system failed. They came to the engineering division to see what they could do about connecting the town sewer. We actually don't have town sewer running down Dyer Court at all. 5 Dyer Court, which is existing at the very end of the cul-de-sac, ties in off an easement through the Tappaville interceptor, and then there's another line that runs along Holden Street. So for whatever reason, sewers are on the outside of Dyer Court. The bottom was tied in, but the 2 houses at the very top of Dyer Court were never tied into town sewer. So I've had a couple discussions with the homeowners of both 4 Dyer Court and 3 Dyer Court. They've agreed in part to having the town go through the process, the betterment process. So they'd be willing to pay the 50% mainline cost and 100% service cost for the town to run new sewer down Dyer Court and for them to connect into it. We looked a little bit at the preliminary survey in the area. They'd have to run a pressure sewer system, so they'd have to have grinder pumps. So I made them aware of that as well. There's no way they can get gravity because based on the elevations. They would be tying out onto Holton Street, so they tie in with the core into the existing manhole in the middle of Holton Street, run the sewer down to the extent of the houses where they need to tie in, and then take it from there, from the property line to the house. So they'd be required to pay that full.
Remind me where
cost.
Dyer Court is?
Dyer Court is actually down Holton Street here on the left, probably, is it first street on the left after you pass Pine Street? I
Down
believe.
by that, right?
Going down Holton Street this way.
Going down.
So
As you go into
up
Center
there.
Street, if you're going to Center Street,
Okay.
Yeah.
Dyer Court's on your left.
Oh, got it, okay, yeah.
Small, kind of a small den and
It
street.
looks more like a driveway than
Yeah.
a street, actually.
Yeah.
2 brick buildings there,
Yeah,
apartment
yeah,
buildings, is
yeah.
perhaps maybe.
Yeah, that's
you
exactly, okay,
recognize it.
got it, yeah.
So the town has a betterment policy, which I explained to both homeowners. They're aware of it. They pretty much have told me that they want to go through with the process and pay the fees that would be required for us to put town sewer in. That means we'd have to go through town meeting if you guys approve it. Town meeting would approve us to appropriate the money to install the sewer. We would then go out for consultant services or a general bid through procurement, and then I have those final costs and be able to give them their final bill once the project is done. And then they have the opportunity to either pay it all in one lump sum or put it on their tax bill at 20 payments, subject to interest.
So, I feel like, so why would they have not, did they have an option at one point to go on this, or is it
So-
because they were sold the houses?
When the town installed sewers back in the 60s,
Oh.
areas such as Dyer Court, they were well below the street, so they couldn't go by gravity sewer back then. And the grinder pump technology wasn't where it is today back then. And they had septic systems which were working, so the people wouldn't have wanted sewer.
Gotcha.
So we ran it, down Holton Street, it was fine, but little areas like that are lower than the road, those were skipped over in the 60s. It wasn't cost effective to put the lines in. Now where technology has it, the homeowners can put in these small grinder pumps in their house, and we just run a little 2-inch pressure line up to the main road. It's a lot less expensive to put in than gravity sewer, and these small grinder pumps have become, the maintenance on them is very reasonable. It's something that any homeowner
Efficient
can
pumps,
maintain.
yeah.
They're efficient and they can maintain them easy.
Okay.
So we found these in little pockets around town, and it usually comes up when one of the houses wants to sell, and then it doesn't pass the Title V inspection for the sewer, so then it triggers off working with us. So under our betterment policy, we pay the town, has agreed through our policy to pay 1/2 of that main line. That's because the rest of the town did receive sanitary sewer back in the day, so this is, the town's, the way they looked at it had to be equitable.
No, I remember us going through a similar exercise for up by the Tech, I think.
Oh, so you were here for
Yeah,
that one?
Sunset.
Okay, for
So,
Sunset,
yeah,
There was
same
like-
thing.
Yeah, there was other people on the street that had it, but this house.
Just one
didn't or
house did.
something.
Yeah, the one down at the end there.
So what happens if there's a change in ownership? It's written into the deed or the PNS that the new owners pick up the payments, or they settle the payments when they sell the house?
I think
Yeah.
that is,
Well, so-
I'm not sure exactly what happens, so that's.
So it's gonna depend on the timing of their home. Whenever we're gonna sign this with the property owner of the house.
Yeah.
They'll have to
Yeah.
sign this betterment. Once we do that, we have the ability to lien these payments on the house. It's tied to the address. So then, once we get a signature on there of whoever's the owner at the time we sign the betterment, which is right after town meeting votes it,
Right.
then it's tied to that address, and we don't care who owns it, because
Okay.
it's tied to the property.
Okay.
So how this will go is after, the board approves it, goes to town meeting, either maybe in the fall or at the worst next May, the special, then we will have them sign it, whoever the owner is at that time, will sign it, will sign the betterment with us. If the property sells between now and then,
Yes.
they'll have to have a legal side agreement with an escrow to do the sewer. They have X number of time after Unless if they want a mortgage, that is.
Yeah.
The property owners have a time period set in Massachusetts law of when the sewer has to be brought into compliance. So as long as they know, the law knows that this is in process and they're continuing with this, it's fine. If they don't follow through with it, they'll be in violation of mass law.
Yeah, I was just curious, if I'm paying Pete my 20 payments and I'm into my third payment and I sell the house, who's legally bound to the payment?
The new buyer.
The new buyer would have to.
Yep.
Because it does get put on by the
It gets on-
assessing office.
okay.
And I would assume that the buyer would be aware of this, is somewhere it's in their
Yep.
mortgage.
When you do your title search, it's supposed to show up any liens on the property, and it shows this as a
It's a
lien.
So you put that lien when you
Alright.
start the payments?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
the assessor's office puts it on the tax bills for
Okay.
the appropriate amount of times.
Now, like Steven said, the property owner does have an option. They can pay it all off in one chunk,
Uh-huh.
or they can go on the 20-year payment plan.
What's the average cost to put it in for somebody, just the average?
Oh, I mean, it's a little different, I wrote that down over here, so. You're looking anywhere between, for the pressure sewers, between $6,000 and $12,000.
Is their cost.
Their cost,
Okay.
yeah. Overall project, as small as that on Dairy Court, costs around between $60,000 and $70,000 to do.
Okay. All right. So I think we need a vote to move it on to
Yeah.
town meeting. Any further questioning on the line item?
How is this going to affect the sale of the property right now? I mean, it's on hold then.
But it's up to the two property owners to come up to a legal agreement between themselves as far as who's gonna be responsible for these costs and who's gonna absorb them.
If they don't, they can't sell the house.
Then they can't sell the house.
Yeah, because he's not passing Title V right now
Right.
either, right?
And so they have to have a legal agreement who's gonna be responsible. If there's a mortgage company involved, usually the mortgage company wants money put in escrow from the sale that would make this whole until, if it doesn't go forward.
But
Yeah.
this whole thing could take at least a year or more.
There's a chance that this could go to special town meeting which is September, Steve? Do we know when that's gonna
I
be?
don't know when the date's.
We believe there's gonna be a fall special town meeting for zoning that the town's proposing. We're checking to see if it can go to the fall town meeting. So there's a possibility it could go to fall, there's another possibility it may not go till spring.
Yeah.
But the law in Massachusetts does cover as a multi-year window for these, if the law knows that plans are underway to replace the failed septic system. We've dealt with that before.
I think the original agreement that they had fell through, so they don't have an existing agreement right now, they're taking the house off the market until this is,
Is that what they're doing?
yeah,
Okay.
I think a lot of buyers will walk away given that.
yeah.
And that's just if they wanna get our hack, if they wanted to go out and build it all themselves on their nickel, they could do that too, if they really
Oh,
wanted
right,
to sell
they
tomorrow.
could, for $30,000, they could, plus
Yeah,
they could
go
replace
put it
the
in.
septic if they wanted, right?
Well, yeah,
No,
or go put the pipe in.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have them replace the septic.
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
they could do that if they wanted to, right? I mean, if there's a,
If
If
they
it
could
had-
get it to design, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
I would not recommend it.
So I
No.
would entertain a motion to move item number 4, the Dyer Court sewer betterment, off to town meeting.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We're on a roll, 2 in a row.
We all done now, Pete?
Okay, item number.
We have another item.
Item number 5.
I don't have an agenda.
Fiscal year 2020 rate discussion and rate hearing. All yours, Pete.
What do you wanna start with, Dave?
Well,
I mean.
I guess I two things we gotta start with. Let's talk about water, which sewer is pretty standard, but water is not. So water, for the first time in many years, we're starting at a retained earnings of 607, which is below the policy. So practice, good business, the bondholders, everyone wants us to move forward with a rate in fiscal 20, which would add to that. We'd love to get it to 10%. Can we get it to 10% in 2020? I don't know. Maybe, probably not. but we'd like to see it go up, or at least not go down much. The other thing we've got is our sales. We look out the window, notice the rain, and we talk about our sales, kidded about our sales. However, for the last 2 years, we've budgeted flat sales, and we haven't hit the number both years. We used to use a 5-year average, then we went to a 3-year average, then we went to same as last year,
That's what we've got this year.
and that's what we've got right now. So right now, we don't even think we can do a 3-year average like we've done in previous years. So we've done rate projections tonight that we presented to you guys based on selling the same number of gallons next year that we think we're gonna sell this year.
Correct.
And we've never done that before.
And that's a lower number than,
It's a lower number.
yeah.
Normally, we'd have we'd see sales going up, but we don't see that right now.
Yeah, I remember last time you had all this, the charts you showed us with the.
Yes, it showed the decline of, I think it was 5% over past 3 or 4 years.
Sure.
And you don't see any, I assume we're not seeing any big development coming in or some new water buyer coming in that would have an impact on that?
No,
Okay.
no, and just, like I say, it's kind of across the board, all categories, the sales aren't, people are conserving.
If you can get Richardson's to sell some of their land in Middletown, you might get a whole bunch of new hookups, but there's not much land left in Danvers.
No, no.
So, and we're involved in our Water Management Act renewal right now, but we see the same or more restrictive conservation restrictions being put on us than ever. So, through the water, they're not opening it up right now anyway, so that we can sell more water. Obviously, the water ban is costing us a lot of sales. The fact that we have to limit the outside water use so much.
Right.
That's done it. So, which sheet should we go off of, Pete? Make sure I'm on the right sheet.
Well, we discussed that one about the water. I mean, we had this one that we discussed Friday. I mean, we can pass this one out, which shows what we're trying to do,
Yeah.
your projections for, you know, our costs and stuff, and what we end up with.
Well, let me just talk so quickly,
Stay on that one
so
first.
we looked at some numbers, and I got sewer again. I need the water one, so they have this now. So on the water, if we look at a 15% average across the board rate, we end up with a surplus at the end of the year of 233.
Correct.
And Pete, that means we're adding 233 to the 607?
Yes, that would be the
Okay.
anticipated.
So if we do 15%, we would take we're taking 607 and bringing it up to 233, adding 233 to it. So we'd end up with 840 in the bank at the end of 2020. So with a 15% increase, we wouldn't quite be at our policy. If we went to an 18% increase, we would add 455 to retained earnings, and that would put us at just over $1 million, 1,062,000, which is just over our policy. So 18% increase gets us over the hump.
Right now, we're just strictly talking about increasing the rate. We're not, does this take into account the quarterly charge too? Is that on water, or is it only?
That is on the water for residential and commercial, and if you look at this column here, we have in fact raised the quarterly fee from
12 to
Okay, so it's
17.
not just a
It's
percent
not just,
increase.
it's not just the rate, it is in fact the,
$5 on the
$5
quarter
more.
charge.
yeah, and
Okay.
if we look down on the commercial, here it's 21 to 29.40. To be fair, about the same percentages, that really should be 21 to 30 on the commercial.
What would the increase be if you did not want to increase retained earnings and just said, keep the, if we've got the same fixed costs, what would that rate increase be just to keep the thing running?
Oh, and stay below our policy?
Well, I'm just saying, that's my question earlier, right? What's your fixed versus variable, is the both?
Oh,
Well, you gotta charge enough to keep the fixed costs covered, right?
Increase
Simple
cost
accounting,
of like
so-
1.6% increase in expenses that you have, right? That's what you're projecting?
yes, we need to make, so we need to cover the 1.6, and then we need to cover, we need to cover that percentage in operations, and then we have to cover the 205,000 for the chlorine booster station.
Yeah.
That's a must-do.
Yeah.
And the 600,000 for the carbon filters, that's a must-do.
So if you, I'm just asking the bare bones budget question, what, the bare bones increase would be,
Well, to Dave's point, we really do need to do the chlorine booster station.
Yeah,
and-
yeah, oh,
So,
yeah.
so that, to get that amount of money and have slightly extra
Yeah.
is the increase to the flat rate on both residential and commercial water, and increasing the rates 15%.
So, what percent approximately would have this come out zero, Pete? Did you have that number?
that's what I'm asking. If
Yeah,
you- if-
It's,
Well,
let's see, so 3% got us, if we go from 15 to 18%, that got us 100, that got us 220. So we could probably be 12% to be flat. See how I did that? I just went, so 15 to 18%, that netted us
oh, I see what you're doing.
230,000. So that's 3%. So if we dropped 3%, if we went to 12% increase across the board, we'd probably come out flat.
Yeah, because that's 220 to go up from 15 to 18.
Yeah,
That's
I-
what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, I'm looking for,
It'd be 12, 13,
Yeah,
13, it would probably be safe.
12 to 13, okay.
if you were to do the same budget as you did last year, right, what would that increase have to be?
Oh, if we had the same operational budget?
Yeah,
We're almost there.
Yeah, see, we have contractual salary increases.
yeah.
There's not, the budget's
Yeah,
put,
I'm just trying to explain to the citizen, that the average citizen's gonna go, wahoo, because we didn't, how'd we do 2% last year, right?
yeah,
We did what's changed year over year to cause us to go from 2% last year to all of a sudden a 10% increase over last year? We gotta explain that.
so
Hmm?
well, the
Correct.
two biggest things that we've done is that we need to overcome that $1.5 million deficit in the retained earnings.
Yeah,
That was unexpected.
Yeah.
So without that, our retained earnings would be fine. So we're making up for that. The second thing is the first time we've budgeted flat sales.
yeah.
The third thing is,
But in your budget line, you're doing the same number of gallons year over year, right? So that,
no, not previously.
In the past, we hadn't. In the past, it would have been
Right.
a 3-year average, which had the effect of making it a higher sales number.
maybe
which
I'm
we-
speeding, maybe, let me articulate it a different way. If our budget last year was based on selling 100 gallons of water,
Yeah,
right? We're saying this year's budget base is based upon selling 100 gallons of water, if I'm following the
Yeah.
logic, right?
no, because we didn't sell 100
We
gallons.
didn't,
We didn't
right.
sell the 100 gallons of water. If we sold the 95
Okay.
gallons of water,
So you're
we're
paying the
basing it,
5%.
we're basing
You're
it
paying
on 95
95%.
gallons,
Okay,
correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So a 5% shortfall in an $8 million budget's about 400,000, right? So out of the gate, you're looking to make up 400 grand, and then you add, I'm just trying to get to the story in terms of, we're gonna
Yeah.
get asked the question, right?
Yeah,
So-
out of the gate, we're
so-
trying to make up 400 grand.
Out of the gate, you're trying to make up 400, we're gonna need a shopping list to try and speak to this publicly, right? In order to articulate this, making 400 grand due to volume, 600 grand for the carbon.
For the carbon,
Right?
yep.
You're not at 10% of your targeted thing, right?
So we need to make some money there.
Yeah,
We're 200,000 short there.
yeah,
And then we're trying to, we've got the we were authorized to do water main replacement over the next 5 years, valued at $10 million. If we are gonna go forward with that and pay for that, we feel we need to start building up the amount of money for when the debt service goes up. Because the debt service will start hitting in 2023, and we don't feel that we don't wanna, well, we have to gain the money someplace, so in order to do that program, when we rated all the streets and the mains and everything, to initiate that program, we feel we need to start raising the money now for that program too.
We need to explain this, right? Is
3% is.
Does Jen do the
easy.
comms? Who writes the
Yeah,
comms
it's
for you
actually,
guys?
well, so what it is we have, as far as the press release is done, it's originally started drafting in my office by Gail Bernard, then Peter and I would look at it, then it would go to Jen and the manager
Okay.
for their tweaking.
Cause I think we got some explaining to do.
Absolutely.
Right. Mark?
I have several questions in regard to why this thing is driven. It appears to me that it's driven by this year's warrant articles, non-borrowing. Water main replacement, 900,000, Swan Pond pump station, 410,000, and then there's a couple of little ones. I can understand that. Can the water main, has that money been spent?
Yep. That was the Bass Ave water main.
It was $900,000?
That was Mass Ave and the remainder of Green Street.
And Green Street Booster.
Okay, how about the Swan Pond pump station?
It's going out to bid now.
Well, can it be deferred?
That's something, it's theoretically, that is at final design right now. It could be deferred. It's something town meeting's already voted to put forward.
Well, the town meeting, that's fine, but the thing is it economically the right thing to do at this time, or can it wait until next year?
We still would have to, that's, the purpose of the pump station is to transfer the water from Swan Pond to Middleton over in the winter
Right.
time. So in lieu of not having that pump station operational, we have to borrow and pay for equipment, generator and pump to be set up down in the North Branch Swan Pond area.
And it's
to make
not
that
in accordance
transfer.
with DEP guidelines. There's a temporary measure that we need, the pumps at Swan Pond are not operational. We've had to do it with temporary rental pumps. And we've gotten a temporary issue from DEP to do it. Swan Pond's there because it needs to get done. It's not there because it's something fancy, it's something we really wanna do.
Then,
We need to move that water over.
okay, no, I can understand that, but then.
There's no bells and whistles. Yeah.
The final question is I think we've asked that same, or I have asked that same question during the budget preparation, is we're selling so much less water. What steps have we taken in the operations of the water treatment plant, basically, to reduce the costs as a result of less water being processed? That's gonna be a question. I mean, if we're so low in the number of gallons, it looks like you're still at 1.3 million, and that's carrying over in all different scenarios. But what steps have we taken? Have we reduced the cost of operating that water treatment plant? That's where your major costs are.
So as far as the operational costs, which you see here, they're projected going from 3.703 next year to 3.8 million dollars. Those are the operating costs. All of them have been tweaked and scrutinized through the budget process. That's the electricity, that's the number of people that we need manning the treatment plant, that's a number of overtime hours we need for overtime pumping. We've reduced that. However, even though we sell less water, we're still obligated to put the same chemicals up there, change the chemicals at the same frequency, and the regulations have just got stricter on us. So we scrutinize it, but it's not like we can cut it back.
So the personnel is salaries,
That's
which is,
salaries.
that increase is based on what the the contract.
existing debt that was previously issued. Most of that is the water treatment plant.
You're talking about
No, the
personnel?
personnel.
Oh, no, no.
is-
I thought you said debt.
Salary.
Oh.
But then
It's
operating
contractual.
expenses, if we're talking, and one of the comments you made was that, like, electric rates are going down. Is our cost of electricity to run the plant less than it
Well,
was because of those?
We
Or-
based the budget on a small decrease
Mhm.
in electricity, that's what we based the budget on.
Okay. I mean, I know costs in general don't go down unless you cut somewhere.
Right.
But,
Right.
okay.
I mean, we're still gonna get 12 water main breaks next year. Those are in that $3.8 million to fix those. You know,
Yeah, I'm
normal
just
business.
thinking, you know, it's kinda, I guess, understanding the operation, it's not a one-for-one comparison, so if you're not running, if you're running 5% less water through the plant, you're not seeing an automatic 5% reduction in chemicals.
No.
Right?
Mhm.
And the treatment that you have to do is to meet regulations for like
Compliance.
complying with either like timeliness or levels of, right, with
Yeah,
the
so,
water.
so we have to, the water comes out of the pond, it's disinfected,
Yeah,
but then it's filtered,
yeah,
then it's settled out, or actually then it settles out, coagulated. We pull the coagulate, then it's filtered again,
yeah.
then it's disinfected again, then it goes into the system.
But
Each of those steps has to happen.
like a 5% decrease in water consumption or demand doesn't cause a 5%
No,
reduction in
Not
the cost
direct.
of chemicals.
It's not direct.
Not at all.
So
But
let me look ahead a little bit, so I think part of the way I'm thinking, you've got some extraordinary items this year that you're trying to cover. If you go 12, 15, whatever it is this year, what do you think the following year's gonna
so
look like?
now we look at this chart.
And we didn't rehearse this. I'm just,
You got,
does the story get any better in the?
This one here.
oh yeah, oh wait, Pete's got it on one page, this is better.
Is this the right version?
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So this is gonna show anticipated salary increases. It's got a factor in there for operating. And the biggest thing it's got in here is factoring in the additional $10 million in debt. So we're looking at that coming down. So this is figuring on us doing a 5-year, $10 million debt program. Which, of that, right now we're committed to about $2 million of it. Or 3, Stephen? Between 2 and 3?
$2 million.
$2 million. So the projects that are, underway in design is about $2 million. So then up top you see the projected rate increases that we need and what that does at the bottom to our, in the policy surplus, Pete, that's cumulative, right? Not, you don't add each year up. I mean, it's like in FY20 it's 114, then the next year goes to 558.
Correct, it's not 114 plus 5.
It's not that.
No,
That's where we end up at the end of the year.
that's the best, yes, based on our projections, yes.
So that's, in theory, a better story. If
Yeah.
this was showing 18% or 12% per
For
year,
10
each
years.
of the next 10 years, I'm having a hiccup, but if you're thinking 18%,
Gets us up where we need to be.
and then you go down to 2 and 2.5,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's, yes, that's what.
I think that'll take the anxiety out of the citizen, I think, if you're, go ahead, Mark.
I'm looking at the summary sheet of these 15, 18, and 20% increases. Wasn't the water main replacement of Mass Ave, wasn't that supposed to be borrowed? Because if that was borrowed, then you would spread out your debt service over a long period of time, and looking at this sheet, it seems like it's $2 million, 2.5, 2 point, yeah, it goes up to 2.5 or 6 as the peak. Why wasn't that, well, that's the chunk, that's the biggest chunk of that 1.519 million. And Swan Pond is another thing, can that be, as debt service instead of directly taking it out of the rates? Because then you could flatten out the rates to, let's say, 2.5, you're saying here, 2.5 to 3, 2.5 to 3. Make them straight across as 3%, and then you've got a better story. Right now, you're spiky. And that's what's causing the 18% or 15% increase. Comes down to management now.
But then, what, just a question to add on to that, the $10 million replacement program, you said we don't start to see that expense until 2023 as a debt service, is that correct?
Yeah, 22, 23.
Yeah.
Right.
That's where the
Yeah.
increase is for that.
So in this multi-year projection, you will see capital projects warrant articles ranging, starting at 800,000 and then slightly increasing each year. We have traditionally been spending approximately 800 to $1 million a year on expenses, whether it's water mains, other treatment issues, treatment plant upgrades, all of that stuff. With a water system of our size, it's to be expected that we're gonna have other capital projects to do through that, so we've worked it into these numbers. And we just don't believe we wanna be borrowing all that money every year, because it's something, we're gonna have a pump to do, a pump station to fix, something's gonna happen every year. Or, at least we need to plan for it. If it doesn't, that's fantastic, but we need to at least plan for it when we're looking it forward.
So if my memory serves me correctly, you've, I think, technically spent half of your retained earnings and kept the retained earnings balance. You
Yeah.
put 50% of it towards
Right.
capital.
Right.
So in this year with all of these things, we're putting,
And when it dropped from 3 to 1.5,
yeah,
we're making up for that too.
gotcha.
Has that been fully explained somewhere and discussed? Because I don't think I remember talking about that.
We asked for a written explanation of it.
It's like, so your accountants came back to, you determined that they overstated retained earnings by, they doubled it?
Mm.
That hurts. And how far back did it go?
It was,
4 years?
it was 4 years.
3 years, 4 years?
So is it a bad entry or a bad calculation?
Do we know, Pete? It was,
Yeah.
It got discovered in, I believe, the audit process, and so.
So it wasn't a revenue recognition change by GAAP policy or anything like that, right? Accounting policy change that would trigger that? Something happened to cause it.
Yeah, there was something done in error, and if the error got caught, then the result was we didn't have 1.4 million that we thought we had.
Someone probably saw that in the performance appraisal is my guess.
I don't know.
That's a big number. All right.
But it's hard for us. You see how we plan these things out years and years in advance. We've
Right,
been
and
doing
then-
that.
Then you saw that.
Like we planned, doing Mass Ave. It's like, yay, finally this year we have the money to do Mass Ave. And it was a project that we've been pushing off. Yeah, this chart is a good chart, and you see with it's tried to put in
Right,
it's flat sales.
which would have been my question. right?
Yeah, it's fuzzy, and we know if theoretically, if we have a real dry summer or a dry or especially a dry spring or a dry fall, we could sell a lot of water, and our financial picture looks a lot better. But we've been now 3 years waiting for that to happen, and it hasn't happened.
No, it hasn't.
It's not happening right now.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I mentioned earlier, the National Weather Service had wrote an article about from the Maryland-Pennsylvania border up to Portland, Maine. The last 2 springs have been the most water in since they've been recording.
And the obvious answer is, if you were to loosen up on the restrictions, the state's coming after you for doing that, right? So even if you wanted to say, hey, we wanna have a water sale, you couldn't do it,
Right.
right?
So, separate from this, through our Water Management Act permit renewal, we're looking at all the options for the future of water in Danvers. This is the economics of us paying, you know, us producing water that's getting more expensive to produce is, we're looking at all the options, what's gonna happen in the future.
And what's the professional opinion, and I know they get a bad rap all the time, right? So I think the town's in good standing because we control our own water, we control our own electric, et cetera, right? We control our own destiny. But if you were to map this demand to MWRA, my sense is things would be significantly higher.
So,
If we were to tap into that.
yeah, so the NWRI communities are significantly higher than us.
Yeah, so
They're-
I'm trying to
they're
help
high.
the PR campaign.
So, right, so Peabody just went through the analysis, however, they did it before, because they had a treatment plant upgrade like we had back,
Yeah.
8 years ago now. And Peabody went through the analysis, should they borrow the $25 million and upgrade their treatment plant, or should they join MWRA? They ran the numbers, and it ran the numbers both ways, and it looks like, in talking to the people from Peabody, it was a decision to keep their own destiny in-house. They felt they had more control over costs and more control over their water if they spent the money on their plan. It was a very tough decision and a close decision for them, but that's the one they made. When we looked at that decision back when we redid the treatment plant, we're a little bit harder because MWRA is further away. It's many more millions of dollars for us to get a pipe here. So it's millions and millions of dollars for us to get a pipe here, and then there's the question of the connection fee to MWRA. MWRA has come talk to us, they wanna hook us up, they would like to provide us water. However, we still have the debt on the treatment plant too. So we can't afford to pay MWRA and pay the debt on the treatment plant.
Yeah, I'm just trying to help the PR game.
Oh, yeah, no, oh, yeah, I see what you mean, yeah, but the PR, right, and if we went to MWRA, it'd be more expensive.
Salem, there was an article last couple of days, Salem increased their water rates, but it was nowhere near 18%. I mean, it was, I don't know, 4 or 5, something like that. Why are we, see, we've saddled ourselves with this water main replacement and the Swan Pond pump station, and that's what's driving every number down the road.
In the $1.5 million error.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, the error is there, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it, but you can spread out these costs over a longer period of time, maybe 5, 10 years, and you can alleviate the peak of 18%. I mean, that's a significant number. You guys were talking about 10% at town meeting, and now it's 18?
So, and from when we ran the numbers, if we looked at borrowing that, we're gonna be right back in the same place next year. Because we will expect next year, we're gonna have another carbon filter to do, and there'll be something else for $100,000 to do. We'll have $800,000 in operational improvements to make next year. We already think that we're gonna have to do that second carbon filter. So we'd be like, do we borrow that? We're just gonna be borrowing every year.
You have carbon filters, you have skate improvements.
The skate
you have
improvements.
Booster stations that haven't been touched in years
Right.
in town.
We're just postponing the inevitable. But,
I don't
you're
know,
right,
is
as
this
far
even
as the,
possible, is that, I know per town policy, we need to be funding this through revenues, right? Are there any other groups within the town that have excessive monies that like, or would you still consider that borrowing and you have to like pay it back? Like, can you get granted money? I don't know enough about.
well,
Do you know what I mean? Like,
So-
can
well,
the electric group?
no, we did it once.
For the meters or whatever
We,
it was?
oh jeez. I don't think anyone's over that one yet. But the electric division loaned the water and sewer division monies for the meters,
Yeah.
to buy the meters. And the accountants, I don't know if anybody's over that one yet. It just didn't go well.
I just, cause we're all, in the end, it's all the same business, we're units within
Right.
the same business. But like, I don't know, I don't attend any of the other, meetings, and
Right.
I've attended town meeting and listened to like things, but I've never looked at the reports.
Yeah.
But are there other groups like, that are doing really well? Electric must be doing well because they're reducing rates, right?
Electric's doing well, electric has reserves in the bank, however, it's different legal pots of money. And I think
Yeah.
every recommendation that we got from anybody we asked is gonna be, go issue notes to borrow, don't borrow from the electric division. Leave it as a business and run it as its own business.
Okay. I thought I would ask.
Yeah, no, ask, oh yeah, we kinda thought it was a good idea, we did the meters that way, innit?
Yeah.
It's called free cash. Town manager has free cash. He
I'll
can
talk to Steve.
subsidize the
I'll
water.
ask him about
So
that.
sometimes in business, when we look at stuff, we think of unintended consequences of taking an action.
Mm.
What's going off in my head right now is, we're down 5% right now by doing nothing, right? If we jack the rates up 18%, people are gonna probably use less water because they got a budget due to the increased payment, so that 5% could drop off more. Right, the unintended consequence of putting a rate in like that, we could be impacting the revenue line even more.
Without them even using any water, we're charging them $20 more per year for the $5 quarterly. So without even reducing their quarterly charge.
Correct, and that's Coley's,
So then-
it's trying to offset some of that.
Sure.
that, yes, that's what he.
And the other thing we looked at was, in the past, the board is saying, you know what, let's put a bigger increase on block three
Three, yeah.
and affect those people. And what happened is, we dropped the sales in block three and never got our numbers. So we've got the accountants, we've gotta put the increase on block one, so that we're sure to get the revenue to beat the budget.
So it's affecting every single person, it's not
Yeah.
just your high consumption.
Correct.
And when we apply the common sense test to it, it's like, how much less water can we use? How much more do we conserve?
Well, we'll find out.
We're gonna find out, yeah, I agree.
I agree with Cole, I think you're gonna, it might not be extreme, but I think you'll see it.
If we can get over this hump and then,
Yeah, I'm troubled by, I guess I'm troubled by how do we explain this to the citizens, right? Because we're held accountable at the end, they're gonna
Yeah.
sue.
you guys, and it's the manager, it's
Right.
his job to provide us, it's, the manager is, driving the financial policies for us and do that,
Yeah,
it's
and
his
I'm-
job, to give those tools.
Yeah, so I'm really worried about that at the moment, and then, I like the outlook which shows this isn't going in perpetuity, but I guess I'm just a little bit surprised that we didn't see the 18% coming. I don't recall us thinking that this was gonna be that high. I mean, I don't recall us having some precursory talk about this and all of a sudden come in tonight and see us. at
Yeah, what did
18%.
No, I didn't either.
Last year, did we have a projection out like this that you provided?
Not that far.
No. And it also wouldn't.
So I got a little bit of sticker shock going on, so.
I do too, at budget time, we had some rough numbers, and we were talking, when we went to finance committee, about percentages lower than this.
Yeah.
And I think it's the sales number is the shocker, on top of everything.
I'm thinking, if we were just to model it, right? Model, if we were to just finance that, just for purposes of doing an exercise, right? Look at different scenarios. If we were to model borrowing the extraordinary items as opposed to, how much does it gain us is my curiosity question, if we were to model it that way. If we were to model financing that as opposed to taking out a retained earnings, is it a 3% hit to the 18, is it 2% hit, or are we screwed no matter what we do, is my question, right?
Well, what we done, if we were gonna add something else to debt, we would look at the plan improvements for 20, the $800,000 there. There's a carbon filter and the chlorine booster, $805,000. I guess the option would be to go to town meeting and request authorization to borrow that.
Right, so what would that do to the proposed increase we would do right now? Do we think it's a 3-point hit, a 4-point hit,
If we borrowed another 800,000 people,
and dropped it? Because I'm sitting there saying, if, at that point in time, you can go to the citizens and say, we've looked at every single possible option, and. do
yeah, but then we're gonna be in the
anything.
same boat next year.
Yeah, but I'm just talking scenarios and not making a decision. Does the 15 go to 12 and then next year the 2 goes to 3? That's what I'm trying to figure out in my head, right?
So if we took 800,000 off of this budget, that would mean we'd add, instead of adding 200 to the surplus, we'd be adding 1 million, so we'd be at 1.6. But then going into next year, this revenue projection would be 20% below where it is on here. So we'd have to go up, we'd still have to go up 18% next year. If we borrow that, we're just deferring it 1 year, right, Peter?
Yeah, cause then you still get the 10 million for the.
And then we get the,
What?
yeah, it's just deferring it a
I'm just
year.
making
Yeah,
sure
no,
we've
yeah.
done everything.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it seems so easy, yeah, why don't we just borrow that? It's great, it gets us out of the problem this year,
But you still,
it slides it to next year.
right, you've still got, you know, 22, 23.
Yeah,
you
if it
can
was a
see
2 or 3% hit, I would say,
it-
knock that down and, go from 2 to 5 next year instead of.
Right, but it's gonna be the full blown, the
it'll be
bang.
full blown next year. Yeah, that accounting error is coming back to haunt us. And that may come under scrutiny, I'm just looking ahead to the public, when this has to go get explained.
Well, yeah, it's a portion, it's the,
You know, it is $20 on the flat rate to the residential customer.
36 for the commercial, right? 9.
No, because they, actually, that's a monthly
Oh.
charge that the commercial customers would be picking up a larger, on a percentage basis, it's the same thing, but it on dollar for dollar basis, that's, $9 times 12 is what, 108? So, I mean, we have tried to shift it a little bit more to the commercial. The block 2 rate is up higher, but, that'll make the commercials, they have block 2, so block 2 on the commercial would produce more revenue from the commercial customer. And they're still all our customers, I
Yeah.
understand, but I'm just, this, the commercial customers picking up a considerable amount too, is probably just, and I'm not trying to minimize what the homeowner is gonna have to pay.
Has FinCom or the town manager been pre-briefed about this, or
oh, the town manager's involved in all the discussion, all the preparations of
Yeah,
these.
what's his reaction to the 18?
His reaction to the 18, he says, you guys he's strongly encouraging an 18% increase this year to get us over the hump, so that we put ourselves in a good position to issue bonds and have enough retained earnings for the future. So, and we can, we do have time, the backup, because this is such a shocker, we can schedule another meeting next week. We don't have to make a decision tonight, we can have the manager come. And that we set this meeting special a week early,
Yeah,
because we knew, some numbers that we've never dealt with.
right.
And of course, you guys have never dealt with, so we have another week, if we wanna have another meeting on it.
Yeah, I just got an email at 2 o'clock this afternoon, so I didn't get a chance to look at these until.
Okay, yeah,
Right, so
so that's, we're set up for that
Okay,
purposely. Actually, And when I talked to the manager, and he asked how, you know, how's the board gonna react, and obviously I said, they're gonna be shocked, because we've never dealt with numbers like this before here in Danvers. And I said, that's why we set the meeting, in case we need another meeting next week, and we could do that.
Yeah, I think, my personal opinion is I think we gotta put the term paper in the top drawer for a week
Okay?
and digest this and
Sure.
take a look at it, and then I think in the spirit of teamwork and full disclosure, we should probably meet with the town manager. I think that's a good
Okay.
idea. Because, again, we've never dealt with this. The citizens probably have not. In your time here, Pete, have you ever handed them a double-digit increase like this?
No.
No. Okay. So I think we gotta be well prepared. Art?
We also need to consider alternatives of how to resolve this, because 18% or 15% is ridiculous. I mean, even to propose it. There's got to be a way to refinance some of these projects. And we've dumped all kinds of projects onto the water users. And this is a management exercise now. I mean, it's a way of spreading out the cost over a longer period of time and maybe economizing someplace. I mean, you know, we can't just go on and increasing the rates all the time. We do that with taxes, now we're doing with water rates. And as you know, over the last 5 years, I've been preaching the water rate increases at town meeting. I don't know if anybody's even listening. So there's gotta be a way to resolve this, to make it palatable at least.
Yeah, I think I'd like to go look at the numbers myself and digest what we've seen here tonight.
Excellent.
And then maybe make phone calls to you guys to say, hey, I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about that.
Yep.
Cause I think we do owe this scenario a level of due diligence that we've never done before, and take a look at everything that's possible.
We agree.
Right, and then pick the best option for all involved.
Yeah.
And then, figure it out.
Sure.
No, and I appreciate it, you know, thinking about this coming over tonight, that's why I'm asking the questions about the fixed versus variable, and,
Mhm.
you know, where is the wiggle room, where is the, but it doesn't sound like there's a lot, because you're dealing with extraordinary items right now, and I think the mental model I wanna go spend some time on is, what's the best way to handle the extraordinary items? Cause you guys run a great show, given, on a good day, you've got the dynamics of Mother Nature and a revenue dropping, which is tough to manage on a good day. Now you've got these extraordinary items thrown in that is having an impact on what you're doing, and that's not easy. So it's not an easy problem right now, and I think the collective wisdom of all involved, we owe it to ourselves to go take a look at a couple different scenarios and say, what's in the realm of possibility? And then come back and say, let's talk about the possibility.
What the procedure should be, I think, is that we should open the hearing tonight, and then we can take a motion to continue the hearing
So
until the
motion.
time next week.
All right.
We should probably talk about the sewer one quickly. Also, just make sure you guys understand the numbers.
Yeah, and Pete, just be one closing thought on that.
Yeah.
Is that, we should do some modeling to say, I'm concerned about the unintended consequences. So, if we were to go put 15 or 18% and pick your number, right, and we were to see a further revenue drop, what do we do? Right? What does that do? And it could end up meaning, are you thinking we gotta go to town to borrow money, we're gonna have to transfer from another account? I mean, remember a couple of years ago, we were short a couple $100,000. I would just like to understand, hey, if we saw a further drop in revenue, what does that do to this operation? Like, run it like we're running our own business. If you started to have a revenue drop, what would you be doing? Right? Cause I think that's out there. Okay. Enough from my side, I think.
Do you guys wanna run through the sewer number quick? or I could, so on this page, so we've done the,
Oh, we don't have that.
oh,
He
Pete,
only gave us the,
oh shoot, thanks Justin.
You got that?
Thank you.
Mine, I showed 3% FY '20 at 17,158, Pete, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So, the sheet that Peter and Rodney have done for us, shows us we project sewer revenues to start fiscal '20 at $903,000. So we're at 14%. So we're above the policy right now on sewer. At a 3% increase, which we looked at as like a cost of living increase, we can actually add $17,000 to that surplus. And that's with the assumption that we need the whole 475 for Canal Street. Which, right now, I'm very hopeful we will not need that whole 475. So if we went with a simple cost of living increase, that we're in good shape.
Which simple, you mean 3%?
I mean 3%, yes.
What did we increase rates last year? 1.2, I think?
Yeah, 1.2 last year, I think it was.
Yeah. So why are we going to 3?
So this isn't volume dependent, right? So you're not seeing,
The sewer seems to be,
so you're not volume, you're not seeing a sewer problem that water has.
Because this doesn't have the irrigation fluctuations.
Yeah.
This is all, the water that's going through the houses is remaining the same. It's the irrigation water we're seeing it go down.
But you don't have a revenue problem.
no.
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 Because it's like the base water use is there. People are flushing and showering.
So I'm interested in Mark's question, right? So what are the extraordinary items that are driving that up year over year if things are constant?
So for next year, the extraordinary items that we have, we've got 475 as a placeholder for that, so one time for Canal Street. The other things that we have is the pumping stations for 200,000, the West Street Force Main for 113, the dam inspections for 10, and the skater for 76.
We're gonna take those out of sewer retained earnings.
Correct.
And that 17,158, just to clarify, does not include raising the money to 475 again. If you look at, we're at the bottom, the subtotal of that is 429.8. It's a total warrant articles, non-borrowing minus Canal Street. So we're not raising that 475 again.
So similar to what, did you do a similar chart? Did you do this for sewer?
No, we don't have a chart like that for sewer now.
So someone would assume that if you don't have that 475 extraordinary, you would think that sewer would drop back down the following year, right? If the logic worked.
Right.
And that's out to bid right now?
Yes, yeah, we're just awarding the bids this week.
Have you opened the envelopes yet?
Yep, yeah, we get good bid prices.
Okay.
who you were concerned that was gonna be, was it gonna be
Yeah,
20% higher or something like that?
yeah, so it came in that, it came in a lot closer to last year's number. And so we're gonna be able to do the larger building, which was the recommended larger building, and still only need a portion of the 475.
Okay, so this is a look at this, do we wanna save this till next week?
Yeah, absolutely, so I'd say we would, make a motion to open the hearing.
Yeah, okay. I make a motion to open the public hearing on the water rates.
Second,
Might as well close it now.
And then, well, no, and then we, first now we need to look at our calendars. And, how's next Tuesday?
Tuesday's a problem for me.
Okay.
I think I'm free.
How about a Thursday? Yeah, I could do next Thursday. Pete? Oh,
I can be here.
You can be here?
Yeah, I'll be around,
Steven?
Tuesday should be here.
No, we're talking Thursday.
you know, we're to 27.
Yep, I'll be here.
I don't have anything on my calendar for that night.
Twenty-seven?
This will be just a rate hearing, right?
Correct.
Twenty-seventh.
5:30,
5:30?
is that? what you-
Works for us.
Yeah, I look good.
Okay, good.
6:27. Do you wanna check with the town manager?
Well, I was gonna, he's heading into the Board of Selectmen right now.
Okay.
Could you guys just take a glance at the 26th? Just, how'd you count in case?
The Wednesday?
Yeah,
I probably won't be able to.
you can't do it, okay, I'm gonna tell him we need him. And the other thing is, if we can't get them in, we'll get the finance director, we'll get Rodney here. We'll try to get for both of them. And I think he understands the need to be here, we've talked to him, so.
So I guess I'll,
Move to continue the
entertain a
hearing.
motion to, continue the hearing till next week, June 27th, 5:30 PM here to continue the discussion we've had on the rates here tonight, both on the water sewer side for the next year.
Second,
All in favor?
aye?